Hi, and welcome to our first Kotlin compiler plugin tutorial. When working with compiler plugins, one thing you'd note is that documentation is majorly made up of examples. So you being able to scour the internet to just find examples will really assist in finding what you need. And that has been a great assist for me to at least get something that I can use. With that, I have to say that there isn't much of YouTube tutorials. You will find a few talks about creating compiler plugins, which are great. So that's also a nice spot to start. But in this tutorial, we're going to be creating a compiler plugin for Scratch. I don't have time to do edits for the videos, so they're going to be a bit raw in terms of the content, but I'm going to really try to keep them as short and specific. And also I want to try and cover as much as possible when creating the compiler plugin. So the main thing we're going to start with is majorly just how do we structure our project and what to do from there, okay? And also we're going to decide what we're going to build. I already picked something that I wanted to build. I wanted to make something that will help me do validations. We do have a lot of if-else statements and all that. Whenever we want to validate if an email is correct or any other input that we just want to validate coming from the user side. So that is what we're going to be building. We're going to see what capabilities we have. So we're just going to learn as we go, okay? So the project structure is majorly made up of, I think it's 4 items. So the first item is definitely the compiler plugin. The second item is the Gradle plugin. The third item is maybe a library, but this is majorly dependent on what type of plugin you want to create. So that will also define how you're going to be structuring the project a bit. The fourth item is maybe an annotations library, because you might not want to be just creating a compiler plugin that adds your IR modifications to every item or every IR element, as we learn later on. So you might want to discriminate some of those items so that you just work on the elements that you specifically need, okay? So for us to be able to do that, we need an annotation library, and annotation library that now will be relating to the compiler plugin itself, okay? Another thing we'll need to heavily, not really heavily, but something that made me struggle is how to properly publish your Gradle plugin. I'm not going to be doing a Maven publish, but you're going to be doing a proper Maven publish local, so that if it works there, it should be work roughly okay once you publish it to either Artifactory or when you publish it to Gradle, okay? So with that stated, at least I think we'll start off with the first part, which is the project structure. So the project structure that we're going to go with, we're not going to be validating everything, so we need a validation class. I might be missing something here, but we'll see the structure for the item later on. The other thing we need is the CLI, which is the compiler plugin, the Gradle plugin, and maybe the library. I'm not sure if we need the library yet, but we might need it so that we have inbuilt or rather custom validations, internal ones. But we can also cover that with the annotations, and then build the custom validations using the internal validations using the compiler plugin, because during the IR stage you can't generate as much code as you want. So yeah, I think you can start with that, okay? So for the project structure, we have what I've stated, but what is inside the project structure? We have the build a Gradle.kts. This needs to be a JVM task because we are integrating to Gradle, and Gradle is majorly based off of JVM. So we need the project to be of JVM. We need capped. I think it's inside the CLI. We need capped inside the CLI. We'll look at that later. But here we majorly need the JVM project and we need the Gradle publish. Okay. I don't think we need Maven publish. Yeah, we need it. I think when we're doing the publishing itself for the local, we need it. Okay, so the next part we need dependencies. So the Gradle pub plugin definitely needs access to the CLI, I think, and then we need the Kotlin compiler. I don't think we need this. I might remove it. Actually, let's remove it now so that we don't put dependencies. We don't put items inside the Gradle plugin that are really not necessarily required inside the plugin itself. You can do test cases. I'm not going to be doing test cases. I'm going to have an example for the plugin so that you can use that as our test environment. Okay. The second part of the setup, you definitely need this part here. You need to define the plugins and we need to create your plugin. This needs to be the plugin name and then the plugin ID and the tags that you want for your plugin and a bit of description about the plugin itself. And you need to tell the plugin what class it's being called when the plugin is initialized. That's why you have the implementation class, and we have that. Okay, for publishing, your definition needs to look your plugin needs to look something like this in terms of where it is in Maven Central. Just a minute. So if I go to my M2 directory inside my if you're on Windows, it's going to be different, but it's always going to be inside your users, then M2, then repositories. So if you see here, I do have one here. So the directory structure needs to be that the item needs to be published inside your root repository, and inside that root repository, it needs to go inside the plugin name, i.e., for our situation is going to be is going to be Vlad, and then inside there you need console plugin Gradle.plugin. Okay, and that is why we have this. We have the project, and then we have Gradle.plugin, so that we can use it inside the examples later on once it's published. And then we have just a bit of a description. This is a Gradle plugin. You can add something useful for your situation. Okay, these are the parts you can skip. I'm using context receivers. They are really useful for this specific situation that I found, so I'm going to be using them. You also need to set up your publishing. I'm going to be creating an embeddable Maven, and I think that's it for this part. So this is going to assist us in actually doing the publishing to Maven local. I don't think we need the repositories. You're going to be doing it to Maven local, but you definitely can add your Maven configuration here. You definitely can add your Maven configuration here. I think it has layers, and then you need your credentials. Your credentials are usually username and a password. That is if you're publishing to a repository that requires authentication, but if you're using Artifactory, it's definitely going to use authentication. Okay, so that's it for build a Gradle.kts for Gradle plugin. I'm also going to use something else, and that is a build library from GitHub. This is the plugin ID, and what this is used for is you're going to need some of the build information inside the project itself. You can definitely manually manage those items, but then we want to make that as seamless as possible. So having that plugin is really useful. You can't find it from, if you just search this, you should be able to find it. Okay. So the items that we need to put on this specific page for that specific plugin is version. So we need to put that inside our main build directory, and I'm going to do that. So com.gamazo build config. This is the latest version. I hope the maintenance is okay and can use it long term. The other thing we need is at least some consistent variables that you're going to be passing around between these two, between the objects, between the projects that are here, or rather targets. Yeah, objects, not targets. No, projects, not objects. So we're going to need a project group that needs, you can make it consistent, but it's best to make it consistent so that it's easy to navigate. Okay. So let's do the, can you do that now? I want to do that now, but okay, let's continue. We'll do it later so that you see why we needed to do it now, I suppose. Okay, so inside the plugin itself, we need capt. This is to annotate or to provide a bit of metadata from Google services. Google auto service library, which is going to majorly assist us in how we integrate the plugin. Okay, and we need to add that dependency here. I think it's somewhere here. Okay, so we have capt Google auto service and compile only on that. For the versions that we have for those ones are here. So we have auto service and we have auto service annotations. Okay. Apart from that, your needs access to the CLI. We don't have a separate directory for that. In some projects, you're going to have a K2 and a K1. I do have to specify that I forgot to mention that you do need to also look into the Kotlin source code itself. This is also going to assist you in making compiler plugins. Nice mentions would be something like the Kotlin L.A.Z.E.I library, which if you're a Kotlin developer, you should be a bit familiar with, but if you haven't, it's quite convenient to use. And then we have the sum with receiver, which is a bit smaller, and I feel like should be a better place to start from, because the plugin just contains very few transformations. Okay, so we're just doing a registry and then starting off with the transformation, and it's a simple transformation, and that would be a good start also. Okay, so as we go on, we're doing the capt and that, and we are using context receivers. I think I added this one here also, but I'm not sure if we need it there, but we do need it definitely in the CLI. And then that's it, but we also need to do some publishing here. So the publishing that goes here, we need this item that same as the other deployment that we have, the other publishing that we have, so that should be okay. Yes, okay, we're good. I want to also set up the annotations library. This is majorly because we want to see what capabilities we have when it comes to whatever we want to create. I think this is also going to define if you're going to be continuing with the videos or not, but yeah. So I'm going to copy the build.gradle.kts from there, put it inside the annotations. This library, if you want it to be multi-platform, you should just put it here. It's actually easier to just make it multi-platform so that you don't have to do the changes later on, because it's not going to have anything specific to do with it's not going to have anything specific to do with a specific language. I think that best explains it. So what's going to happen inside here, we're going to have the Kotlin multi-platform, and definitely want to be able to publish that. We do not need this part here. Actually, I don't think we need any dependencies from the other classes, nor do we need test cases. I think that's it. I think we need to do Kotlin, and we need to specify just different versions of project. So definitely for every project, we do need at least one target initialized. We're going to initialize the JVM target since it's the easiest one to initialize. And then we have the test multi-platform, and then we have just our Kotlin part, but I think you already had a Kotlin part up there, so I think this one's gonna share. I'm gonna put this down here, but so that you don't have that item there, and we have publishing and all that. Okay, let's add our annotation to settings. All the include, if I can figure out how to type include. Are we going to call it blood annotations? I want to call it that, so I did call blood annotations, and I think that's good enough. This AI world is really changing stuff. I don't even know how the hell it got the blood annotation, but well, he got what he needed, so we can move on. Okay, pretty, yes. We have our annotations, we have the parts of the library. Okay, we want to set up the common directory. They say this is going to be multi-platform, so we just need the common directory. We don't even need the resources. I don't think so. Okay, we do have a project group that we already defined, so this is going to be just Kotlin. No, package. That's what I was saying. No. Two libraries, Kotlin, flood. That's it. And the main annotations I'm going to have here is the validate. Validate, or call it vlad. I initially wanted to call it vlad. Annotation. I can figure out how to type annotation. I initially wanted to call it vlad, but I realized that a new user might be confused. So I think that's one thing you need to consider whenever you're creating APIs or libraries in that situation. You really need to consider a lot about the user for your API, and that means that if you want adaptation to be faster, your naming convention should be at least consistent, or something that someone has seen somewhere or someone can easily understand. Okay, so we're going to use validate, and the validate, I don't know, I want to put here a function name or a class. Okay, so when I was initially reviewing this, I saw that I cannot put function names here. So because whenever you want to do validations, you want to be able to validate that against something, and we're not able to generate all the types of validations that exist in the world. And you definitely want to have custom ones, and we don't want you to be coming to the compiler plugin every time you want to add a new custom validation. Okay, so we definitely want this class to extend something, and I don't know, I want to say T here that extends validations or validator. Okay, I think now we need the lib, but to reduce how many items we want to be importing to our library, let's do this right now and call this abstract. Okay, and I think I can say T here. Okay, also want to use this item. For now, we're going to be doing a manual importation into the example class, or rather because I really wanted the project structure to make sense as much as possible. Blood annotations, the validator and validate. T needs to extend validator and a class T. So validator. Okay, and validator is going to definitely take something of type T, and it's going to do a validation. Validate an object item, and it's going to return a boolean, and that's an abstract one. Okay, that's an abstract one. Okay, here what do we have? We don't want to get crazy with generics. We really don't care about this T once we get here, so we don't care about the other T, or rather we could put here a C, so that the C goes here, so that this is properly generic. But honestly, we don't need it. So you also need to tell yourself when to stop with generics. They are very nice when it comes to having proper compile time type checks, which are quite of great assistance when you're doing development. So let's go on to the next item. So we've already defined our validator class, and we've defined our validate. I think with that, it means that we might need to create others, but we'll see. Let's make this one nullable here. Okay. It cannot not be nullable. Annotation class cannot be nullable. So if it cannot be nullable, we need to create another one. But now this is going to be a problem for us. Call that blood and then call that validate. Is this okay? I'm thinking of scenarios whereby we just want the user to have we don't want the user to define a validation class, because we want to have internal validation classes. Since we want to have internal validation classes, let's say we are going to have lib, and then you have to provide your validation class. Alternatively, the neat trick here would be to have the built-in annotations that I was mentioning before. An email validation, we cannot extend annotations classes, which is a catch. Wanted to do that so that we have the validations, so that we only check for one type of annotation, but it's okay. We are not going to be providing a validator for that. It's going to definitely always be a string, and what else is going to be there? Yes, it's always going to be a string. We don't need to specify if it's a string, but you can have an interface for validator. I don't think, let's check. I'm going to call it blood. It's going to be internal generally, so it's going to take C, a blood validator. Okay, going to take C, not really, but let's see. What I just want to check on is this: if annotations can extend interfaces, annotation cannot have super types. Okay, it's okay. I wanted to have consistency inside this item, but let's put them in the same file, and then so call these validators. Majorly is for you to remember how the structure of an annotation item should look like. Okay, so we have one for email and we have one for validate, and for now we are going to be doing the one for email. For email, we need to provide a class manually for this, so we're going to be changing. I think I want to change the validate to some class that is going to be validating emails. So for that, I know it's not the most efficient one, but for this situation going to fit, extend the validator, and it's majorly going to be working on strings. And then what do we need here? We need to implement validate. We need to make this one an invoked one. Well, then can it be an interface? Okay, can remove this one, and we have that, and alt enter members. It doc contains, is going to have something very rudimental. So it doc contains item doc contains dot. Okay, good to split it into parts. So item dot split into an art. Okay, and it should have at least 2 parts. Size is greater than, is actually equals to 2 parts. Okay, because we're assuming we have something like me@me.com. So you see we have 2 parts here, so we can say that, then take the other part, just validate. This is not a validation course, so cut that, paste this here. Okay. Now we can definitely do a bit of code rewrites to have the validator here. So k class string, I suppose. No, validator. Okay, that still don't know how to create instances of this class, but we'll see how that goes. Okay, we're going to just find this class. I feel like we can just find this class, and then once we find this class, we can invoke it later on inside. Okay, so that's it for this validator, the email validator. It has a default value for the email validator that we need, and that's it. So with this also enables you to provide custom validations for the email validator, but we can make this way simpler using passing a string here that then is going to be passed inside the email validator in some way. But as I said, or maybe didn't, there is a lot that you can do with compiler plugins, and that's what we are here to learn. Okay, what do we need here? I think that's it for this part. I want to open this one as a separate project, so I want to just go here and open inside a new window. Okay, so this was a template. I just downloaded the, whenever you building a new project for Kotlin, if you want a multi-platform project, you have to click on that, and then it will take you to this screen here, and then from there you can specify from the template gallery and take this one, because we want a multi-platform library. So that's what I took, cloned it, and this is what I have. And inside here, what we are doing majorly is we just want to import our library. Android, it comes with a few items. I deleted those items, but we need what do we need here? We need our plugin ID here. It's going to be Vlad for our plugin. Comment it out right now because we haven't yet added it. You need to initialize your targets. Target hierarchy to default. We need to initialize targets. Okay, so the way I normally initialize my targets is that I don't want you to having a hassle to look at targets that you don't need on your current system. I'm running Linux, and if you saw the previous item, it was also adding the, what is this called? It was also adding dependence targets from iOS and other systems. I do not have a Mac, so we're going to do this here. Okay, initially we just initialize it with JVM, so we need to add the other targets, which are native, JSIR, and that. Definitely can put this inside versions. And what else? For my JVM, I'm going to call that desktop. I really don't need to, so let's call it Java. Okay. And for Linux, you just want to think about which version of Linux you want to build for, and then specify this here. And then we have some shared items. If you want to remove this if it's executable, so you can remove it. I think I mentioned that I really relied on a template project that I found for compiler plugins that really assisted me in just getting started with compiler plugins. That template is this one here. I think it's by someone called L.A.Z.E.I Tronetti. And this really assisted me in getting started with compiler plugins. It was really straightforward, and I think you've seen some of the assisting things she had added. If you don't need this, you can remove it, but for our situation, we're going to be running it for test cases mainly. So we're going to, no, we're not going to need it for this one. Okay, we're going to need it for the example project. So what do we do? Do we copy? No, I have it copied, so that's okay. I need to put it inside the examples project. So where did I put the examples project? Close it. Vlad, I've seen it. New window. Okay, this is what it comes with, but no, we don't want that. We want this one here. So we need this because we want to be running basically just running the application. You can apply that, but then whenever you apply this, make sure that you're not changing the names for the targets here, because if you do, you're definitely going to be facing a bit of issues here and there. Put multi-platform dependencies here. That one's nice. I think that's it. Yeah. So that is it for our example project, and majorly that's it for the whole project setup. You need the annotations class, the example that you're going to be using the compiler plugin in, CLI, Gradle, maybe a lib, but we have put whatever items that should have been inside lib inside the validator. You could put them inside lib, but then the annotation depends on lib, but then that would mean you need to import 2 items. Or rather, we can't just put everything inside here and assume that annotations is our L.A.Z.E.I library. Actually, I feel like that's what I'll do. So see you in the next tutorial.